Put your seatbelts on and get ready for the ride. We're the freaking New York Jets, so we're built for this shit.
Hello, welcome to another episode of In the Trenches with Gang Green. I'm your host, Bubbs. Today is Tuesday, May 27th. Hopefully everybody's having a good day so far today. This is episode 546 of the In the Trenches with Gang Green podcast. I thank you, as always, for joining me. For those tuning in on YouTube, make sure to please like and subscribe. Of course, appreciate all of those tuning in on all the different audio podcast platforms. And today we've got some more New York Jets news to discuss. Wanted to break down an NFL analyst bold predictions for both Garrett Wilson and Justin Fields in 2025. If both of his predictions are realistic, we'll discuss that to open up today's program, and then we'll break down how the New York Jets salary cap space could lead to Garrett Wilson and Sauce Gardner extensions very, very soon. The timeline for those deals possibly revealed by Rich Cimini on his article the other day, so we'll break that down as well. Also, the New York Jets potentially going on a summer free agency spree. We'll break that down on top of some of the other salary cap stuff. As always, though, we got to tell you about our podcast partners, starting with our friends over at BetUS, America's favorite online sportsbook. If you want to get in on any of the sports betting action, check out BetUS and use my link in the description of this video to get a 125% sign-up bonus on your first 3 deposits up to $2,000. Also, our friends over at SeatGeek. If you want the hottest tickets in sports and entertainment, check out SeatGeek and use promo code BUBSONSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. And, of course, head on over to Huga House if you want any of their awesome selection of T-shirts, sweatshirts, and most notably their hats. Check them out and use code BUBS for 15% off any purchase and get yourself some awesome Huga House swag. So here we go, episode 546. Thank you, as always, for tuning in. Today officially marks 100 days away from the start of the 2025 NFL season. So we are getting there, NFL fans. We're getting closer, Jets fans. Of course, the excitement continues to build. Another week coming up here of OTAs. You have mandatory mini camp shortly, and before you know it, we'll be here in late July into August with all of the training camp coverage. So I cannot wait. Excitement always continues to build as you creep closer and closer to the summertime. And with the NFL being 100 days away, Benjamin Solak of ESPN wrote an article today on 100 thoughts, given that today marks 100 days away. And 2 of his 100 thoughts were involving the New York Jets and were involving Justin Fields and Garrett Wilson. And both thoughts were kind of bold predictions, really, for both of these players. So I want to throw both of these predictions here up on the screen and then break down if they're realistic, what the chances are of both of these statistical milestones for Garrett Wilson and Justin Fields to hit here. So we'll start with Garrett Wilson. He said, here is a list of things I believe. Garrett Wilson is the best receiver Justin Fields has played with in his NFL career. Wilson is the wide receiver 1 with the biggest gap in quality between him and his wide receiver 2 in the entire league. Wilson has played mostly on hard mode, a lot of press coverage, downfield routes, contested balls, etc. And new coordinator Tanner Engstrand will prioritize getting him easier targets. Here is the big prediction. As such, I have a nagging suspicion that Wilson will lead the league in receiving yards in 2025. He also mentioned Justin Fields. He said the Geno Smith career resurrection came in 2022. The Baker Mayfield career resurrection came in 2023. The Sam Darnold career resurrection came in 2024. Now the Justin Fields career resurrection will come in 2025. Watch him hit 3,000 passing yards, 900 rushing yards, and 30 total touchdowns. Two bold claims as we sit here on May 27th. Now, I'll start with the Garrett Wilson prediction there, and that is that he will lead the league in receiving yards. Now, it is clear the gap, of course, between Garrett Wilson and the rest of this wide receiving core is definitely probably the largest gap and discrepancy in talent in the NFL when you look at the question marks at wide receiver 2 and beyond for this New York Jets team. I do think, and I love Garrett Wilson, and we are going to talk a little bit even more about Garrett Wilson later on in the extension of him and Sauce Gardner, hopefully coming soon. But 1,000, or rather, him leading the league in receiving yards is asking a lot. Now, anything, of course, can happen, but when you break down where Garrett Wilson has stood in his career, he has never really been very close to the top of the league or even around the top of the league in receiving yards. Now, I do feel Garrett, and we'll break this down here soon, could reach a level of a former Justin Fields wide receiver that he had in Chicago, which would be a career best season from a yards perspective for Garrett Wilson. We'll get to that. But I wanted to break down first here yards for Garrett Wilson. So 2024, Garrett Wilson had 1,140 yards. That was 14th in the NFL. The leader in yards last year was Jamar Chase, who had 1,708. That's first. That's a 568-yard difference. 2023, Garrett had 1,042 yards, which was 22nd in the NFL. Tyreek Hill, who led the league, had 1,799. That's a 757-yard difference. And in his rookie season, Garrett Wilson had 1,103 yards, which was 15th in the NFL. And Justin Jefferson led the NFL with 1,809 yards, which is a 706-yard difference. So there has been a pretty big difference. And really asking any receiver, especially in a league and a day and age right now where you have your Justin Jefferson, your Jamar Chases of the world, 1,700, 1,800 is a very, very massive number to get to. Garrett in his career, 3 straight 1,000-yard season has been awesome. Averages around 1,083 yards per season. Not a guy that's been upwards near the 1,700, 1,800 range. Now, when you look at the offense, and we've talked about this a lot, you hope that Engstrand and Benjamin Solak mentioned in this article, right? Garrett has had a lot of tough catches. There is not anything that this Jets offense has done forever now, but specifically over the last couple of years, nothing comes easy. It's always difficult. Nothing looks easy. There's no scheming guys open. You hope Tanner Engstrand can do more of that, scheming him open, getting him easy looks, getting him easy receptions, right? And if that's the case, I look at Garrett Wilson personally this year, and not so much leading the league in receiving yards, but I think a realistic number, which would be a career high by a wide margin. I look at DJ Moore's 2023 season with the Bears, where Justin Fields was his quarterback, where he had 1,364 yards, which was 6th in the NFL. I certainly think there's a chance this year where Garrett Wilson, that was also a career high for DJ Moore. He had 3 1,000-yard seasons during his time in Carolina, none of those upwards near the 1,300-yard mark. But I look at Garrett and I say, I think it's certainly possible he can hit 1,300, 1,400 yards. Not so much 1,700, 1,800, but that 1,300, 1,400 yard range, similar to DJ Moore in 2023, and give me 100-plus receptions, which he had last year. I also think you can make the case maybe he challenges Brandon Marshall's record if he really has a big season, which is 1,502 yards during his 2015 season, which still ranks first in Jets history. Now, he also had 109 receptions last year, which still ranks first in Jets history. And there's a good chance if Devontae Adams was not on the Jets last year and Rodgers didn't start to almost exclusively target Devontae Adams, force feed him the ball last year as he was chasing down touchdown number 500, that Garrett would have beaten that record. So I could see a world 1,300, 1,400 yards for your star receiver and maybe even break that 109 reception mark where he was just 8 away last year from tying it. Garrett had 101, which is second right now, most receptions in a single season, and the first time that he hit over 100. And also, just want to throw this out there as well. Receptions-wise, Garrett was tied 7th last year. Jamar Chase led the league 127, so about 26 difference. I could see Garrett anywhere 110, 115 maybe, or even in maybe that same spot of 105 to 110 and still being top 10 and then potentially inserting himself top 5 to top 7 in yards. Because if you look at the drop-off last year, it was Jamar Chase with 1,708 yards and then Amon-Ra St. Brown with 1,263. That was a pretty big drop-off. It's a 500-yard drop-off almost from 1 to 2. Garrett leading the league, that's a big ask. It's hard to do, right? But Engstrand scheme him open. We'll see what happens. I think more realistically, though, 1,300, 1,400. Look at DJ Moore's season with Justin Fields. The connection clearly there with Fields. Going back to college, of course. That could be a season there for Garrett Wilson. So that's my thoughts on that bold prediction. Now, I want to get into Justin Fields' prediction here as well. And that, of course, was over 3,000 passing yards, 900 rushing yards, and 30 total touchdowns. When you look at Fields' passing yards in his career, the most passing yards he's ever had in a season, and I personally think this is more attainable. Now, it's a much lower bar that Benjamin Solak is talking about Fields. He's asking Garrett to put up the league best receiving yards number. He's asking Fields and predicting Fields to essentially be above average for this New York Jets team. But in his career, the most passing yards he's ever had in a season was 2,562. That was in 2023 with the Bears. However, he only played 13 games. If you average that out to if he would have played 4 more games and would have played the entirety of that season, he would have surpassed 3,000 yards. He would have ended with roughly 3,350 yards that season. So that is something that if he would have played a full year, you're probably looking at Fields as a number that he's already amassed. So 3,000 passing yards is certainly on the table, especially if him and Garrett have that strong connection. You look at the rushing numbers, I think that's something too pretty open for him to hit. And that is 900 yards. His most he's ever had was in 2022, where he had 1,143 yards in 15 games. He's had 2,509 rushing yards in him and Lamar Jackson are your 2 elite running quarterbacks right now in the NFL from using their legs. That Fields is one of the most dangerous when it comes to using his legs. So the rushing numbers are going to be there. In terms of the passing numbers, the passing touchdowns, and then when you break down the rushing touchdowns, the most passing touchdowns he's had in his career was in 2022, 15 games. If you tie that out across 17, he would have been at 19 touchdowns. 2023, just wanted to add this in. He did have 16 during that 13-game played season. If he would have played all 17, he would have surpassed not only 3,000 yards, but would have also hit 20 touchdowns. Projecting, of course, over 17. Who knows what would have happened in those 4 games. Now, most rushing touchdowns he's had in a season was 8 in 2022 in 15 games played. And the most total touchdowns that he's had in the season was 25 in 2022, where he had 17 passing and 8 on the ground. If he would have played 2 more games, if he would have played a full season that year, he could have gone up to 28 touchdowns. I think you're looking at Fields and saying, if he can go out there and put up 3,300, 3,400, let's say, yards, okay, 22 touchdowns, let's say, and 8 or 9 interceptions, or rushing touchdowns, rather, that's probably a season where you can bring him back, where you're over 3,000 yards by a good margin. You still a threat on the ground if he can be in that 800 to 1,000 yard rush range, which he can roll out of bed and do that, especially when you look at the 2022 season where he was lethal with his legs, right? Essentially what Benjamin Solak is telling you here, and he said it in the article, is the Jets are going to find something in Justin Fields where he can be a future fit for this team. If Justin Fields does not hit 3,000 yards, and I kind of just say that too, like these to me are just some baseline numbers. Like if Fields does not hit 3,000 yards and does not hit let's say 900 even rushing yards or even below that and 30 total touchdowns, he's not back next season, especially the 3,000 yards. If you're looking at a guy that's at 2,600, 700 yards in a full season and, I don't know, 18 touchdown passes, he's not coming back. But again, the above average numbers of 3,400 yards and 22 to 23 touchdowns, your 7 to 8 rushing touchdowns you're going to get for him, and around that 900 rushing yard number, then you can find something and you have potentially that resurgence. So Fields numbers, I certainly think are definitely attainable. I do. In terms of the over 3,000 yards, the 900 to 1,000 rushing yards, which we've already seen him accomplish in his career. And then, of course, the passing touchdowns. If you're looking at Fields, you think, right, anywhere from that 23 to 24 passing touchdown range and in those 8 to 9 rushing touchdowns, that gets you over 30. So those are the Justin Fields numbers and the prediction there from Benjamin Solak. I wanted to move on to one more thing here before we close things out today. Rich Cimini, in his weekly Sunday article, revealed some salary cap numbers here for the New York Jets and kind of put a timeline on a potential Garrett Wilson and Sauce Gardner extension when those could get done. So Rich Cimini stated Rodgers and Mosley, both released in March with post-June 1 designations, are counting a combined $36.3 million on the salary cap. On June 2nd, that number drops to just $13.5 million, making the Jets one of the leaders in cap room. They will have plenty of flexibility to sign Wilson and cornerback Sauce Gardner to contract extensions. So, right, the Rodgers Mosley extensions, designated those as post-June 1 cuts. Those will kick in here June 2nd, which opens up a lot. And to break down just kind of some of these salary cap numbers, the Jets right now currently sit 16th in the NFL with $25 million. With the Jets, those post-June 1 designations kicking in, they will gain $22.8 million off of the Rodgers and Mosley contracts. So they will get up to $47.8 million in salary cap space, which could put them all the way up to second in the NFL. So in just a couple days from now, we could see the New York Jets jump almost double where they are at right now from a salary cap perspective, $25 million. They will pick up about $22.8 million in space to get upwards to just a tick under $50 million at $7.8 million, putting them second in the NFL, making that 14 spot jump. So they're going to create a lot of cap space. And Cimini kind of hinted it there. Garrett Wilson and Sauce Gardner extensions, it feels like the timeline is like right in front of us, right? You start connecting the dots and you look at where the Jets right now are in terms of cap space. You look at where they can be on June 2nd. Garrett Wilson just talked about it the other day at OTAs that his agent and the Jets have had conversations. We haven't heard much about Sauce and the contract extension conversations, although I expect those have happened or there has been some extent of that taking place. But it feels like these are two moves that can be happening here potentially as early as next week or very shortly after that. I've always said, right, mandatory minicamp for the Jets will be right early June. I've always targeted that late mandatory minicamp range as like mandatory minicamp. Then you have that 40-day period between training camp where something gets done. And with salary cap space increasing, could see that getting done. And something else too, just ESPN the other day, Bill Barnwell revealed his offseason superlatives to every NFL team. And for the Jets, their superlative was most likely to go on a late summer spending spree. Also kind of adds up and goes into the whole salary cap situation because the Jets are now in a way being linked to potentially going on a summer free agency spending spree, which makes sense because you're going to increase your salary cap space and there's still a couple holes on this roster. You look at a guy like Amari Cooper. You look at a guy like a Keenan Allen. Are those two players that the Jets would be interested in adding? You look at the safety position potentially. If the Jets are looking to add somebody like a Julian Blackmon or even a Justin Simmons at safety to add some more depth, add some more competition there. Right, you like what Andre Sisco can bring. You do have some questions about Tony Adams and can he start? Will he start? After kind of what happened last year, where in a way he got pushed to the side, right? Ended up getting benched in that one game. Come to find out, in the bombshell report, the reasons behind that, which were interesting. So I've said this. I don't know if the Jets will actually go out and signing those guys. We talked about it yesterday, the youth movement that the Jets are on right now. They have the second least amount of players of over 30 or older. The only team in front of them with less is the Packers. Jets have 5 players at 30 years or older. The Packers only have 4. The Jets are also the 29th oldest roster, also known as the 4th youngest roster right now in the NFL. They've gone with the youth movement. So would they want to sign an Amari Cooper, Keenan Allen to get receiver help, even though those guys are north of 30, hitting the back end of their career? Same thing with a Justin Simmons, a guy who still has some gas left, but is certainly, a guy that has been around now for a little while, 31. He'll be 32 in November. On the back end of his prime, back end of his career a little bit here, potentially. So we'll see. But certainly things that to keep an eye on here for the Jets, both the Garrett Wilson, Sauce Gardner extensions and potential summer free agency spree, because this was a team that didn't make a whole lot of big name or just big splashes in free agency. Could that be coming here in the offseason? And I've also said this too. I think Glenn and Muji and the approach they're going to take, and this is always happens, wait till cuts. Wait till you get to training camp 2 and see if you have any cuts. Post June 1 as well. Any other cuts that might happen. Trades start to become a little bit more open once, the post June 1 designations and things like that kick in. You even get to training camp. You always get those veterans, those surprise veterans that get cut, that get moved on from. Are the Jets going to be one of those teams that, if they notice a position, let's say, is weak or needs help, whatever, do they potentially then pounce on a veteran wide receiver or a veteran safety or whatever? Things, of course, to keep an eye on here as we roll on in May and get into June and eventually training camp. So that's another episode. Appreciate you all so much for tuning in. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. What are your thoughts on the bold prediction from Benjamin Solak of ESPN on Garrett Wilson and Justin Fields? 2 big seasons from those guys. Let me know what you think and your thoughts on the Jets salary cap situation and how that directly impacts the Garrett Wilson and Sauce Gardner extension timeline. Stay tuned. We'll have a lot more content coming your way. And as always, until next time, JETS, 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 Jets.